Pay attention, because this is not random. Someone with real power, someone trained to read people, patterns, and pressure, has already noticed you, not for what you show, but for what you hold back. They caught two things most people never display at the same time: control and depth. When those appear together, they disrupt expectations, and once that happens, attention locks in. This matters because power does not look for noise or confidence. It looks for stability under uncertainty. You don't rush to explain yourself. You don't react emotionally when things are unclear. You observe, you regulate, you move with intention. These are not personality traits. They are measurable behaviors studied in psychology and leadership science. They signal someone who can be trusted when stakes rise. What you're about to receive here is not motivation, it's understanding. You'll learn how attention from power actually works, why it often arrives as silence and pressure instead of praise, and how people are evaluated through ambiguity, not opportunity. You'll understand why your time feels heavier lately, why certain people are fading out, and why small decisions suddenly carry more weight. This knowledge matters now because once you're noticed, you are already being assessed. If you know what's happening, you can stay grounded and turn this moment into leverage instead of stress. If you don't, you risk misreading the situation and closing doors you didn't know were open. Stay focused. What you're about to understand changes how you move forward. Before we jump into this life-changing message, take a quick moment to do 3 things. Smash that like button, subscribe to help us reach 5,000 amazing subscribers, and drop a comment with the number 99. Most people believe recognition arrives with noise, compliments, invitations, sudden visibility. But real power doesn't work that way. When someone influential notices you, there is no announcement, no signal, no confirmation. The shift happens quietly, almost invisibly, and that silence is precisely what makes it significant. Power observes before it engages. It watches how you move when you believe no one important is paying attention. This silent observation phase is rooted in behavioral psychology. People reveal their true operating patterns when they feel unobserved, how they respond to pressure, whether they seek validation, how they handle ambiguity. Those who understand power know that performance under observation is unreliable. What matters is who you are when there is no audience. If you were noticed silently, it means your baseline behavior, not your effort, stood out. There's something unsettling about this realization, and it's meant to be. It suggests that you didn't earn attention by trying. You triggered it by being consistent, controlled, and internally organized. That kind of presence doesn't shout, it hums. And those who live in positions of influence are trained to listen for that frequency. Talent is obvious. It announces itself. Power is rarely impressed by it. What actually draws attention is tension, the kind that exists inside a person who hasn't fully deployed their capacity. This is not anxiety or confusion. It's restrained intensity, a sense that something is being held back, deliberately or instinctively. That tension is rare, and it's far more interesting than raw ability. In psychological terms, this relates to self-regulation and impulse control. Studies consistently show that individuals who can delay expression, gratification, or reaction tend to perform better in complex environments. Power structures depend on this trait. Someone who exhausts their energy publicly leaves nothing in reserve. Someone who holds back signals, depth, strategy, and awareness of timing. This is why you may have felt misunderstood in the past. People often mistake restraint for hesitation or lack of confidence. But to someone who understands hierarchy and long-term influence, that restraint reads differently. It suggests you are managing something internal, strength, insight, or ambition, rather than spilling it carelessly. And that is exactly what power notices. Most people externalize everything: opinions, emotions, plans, fears. They speak to relieve pressure, not to communicate precisely. When someone with power observes this, they see predictability. But when they encountered you, they saw the opposite. You didn't rush to explain yourself. You didn't fill silence just to be comfortable. You held things back. This behavior has measurable effects in social dynamics. Research on conversational dominance shows that people who speak less, but with intention, are often perceived as more competent and authoritative. Silence forces others to project, to reveal, to compensate. By holding back, you weren't disengaged. You were controlling the exchange without needing to dominate it. This doesn't mean secrecy for the sake of mystery. It means discernment. You seem to understand, consciously or not, that not every thought deserves daylight and not every emotion deserves expression. That ability creates gravity, and gravity changes how people orient themselves around you, especially those who are trained to read power signals. One of the clearest markers of psychological maturity is the ability to observe without immediately seeking confirmation or approval. You watch, you listen, you process, but you don't rush to be seen doing it. That alone separates you from most people. Validation-seeking behavior is easy to spot, and it instantly lowers perceived value in high-level environments. From a cognitive perspective, this suggests strong internal referencing. Instead of relying on external feedback to confirm your understanding, you trust your own interpretation first. This doesn't mean arrogance, it means internal stability. People with power look for this because unstable individuals become liabilities when stakes rise. This trait also explains why you might feel slightly out of sync with louder personalities. They gain energy from being acknowledged. You gain clarity from understanding. That difference is not small. It shapes how decisions are made, how risks are calculated, and how trust is formed. And once again, it's something power recognizes immediately. Hierarchies depend on predictability. When people can be easily read, emotionally, behaviorally, strategically, they can be managed. Unreadable individuals disrupt this balance. They don't telegraph reactions. They don't reveal leverage points. This forces those above them to pause, reassess, and sometimes adapt. Unreadability isn't about manipulation. It's about coherence. When your internal state is stable, you don't leak information through micro-reactions, excessive speech, or emotional volatility. Studies in negotiation psychology show that individuals who reveal less often gain more favorable outcomes, not because they deceive, but because they control pacing and disclosure. This is where discomfort arises. Power doesn't dislike unreadable people. It becomes curious about them. Curiosity leads to attention. Attention leads to evaluation. And evaluation changes the trajectory of your interactions, whether you asked for it or not. This is the moment hierarchies begin to shift, not dramatically, but unmistakably. Some people influence a room before they speak, not because they dominate it, but because their presence subtly alters behavior. This is known in organizational psychology as latent authority, influence that exists without formal position or visible effort. It often emerges in individuals who are internally organized and externally calm. Others sense it before they understand it. Latent authority works because humans are highly sensitive to coherence. When someone's words, timing, and emotional responses align consistently, the brain registers reliability. Reliability turns into trust, and trust quietly turns into influence. You don't have to persuade when your presence already stabilizes the environment. People adjust themselves around you without realizing why. This is why attempts to imitate authority usually fail. Authority cannot be performed convincingly for long. It emerges from regulation, clarity, and self-possession. When power noticed you, it wasn't reacting to charisma. It was responding to a structure that felt solid, something it could lean on without fear of collapse. Silence makes most people uncomfortable. They rush to fill it because silence feels like exposure. But when silence doesn't disturb you, it becomes a strategic advantage. It slows interactions down. It forces reflection. It shifts pressure outward instead of inward. And often, you don't even realize you're doing it. From a neurological standpoint, silence interrupts impulsive processing. It creates a pause where higher reasoning takes over. This is why experienced negotiators, interrogators, and leaders use silence deliberately. They know that whoever breaks it first often gives away more than intended. You've been doing this naturally, without training. This doesn't mean withdrawal or passivity. It means you're not compelled to react instantly. You allow moments to breathe. That restraint signals confidence and control, qualities power depends on. What others see as quietness is in reality composure, and composure changes outcomes. Spiritual depth is often misunderstood as gentleness or detachment from real-world impact. In truth, it functions as internal infrastructure. Practices like reflection, self-awareness, and emotional observation create mental clarity. Clarity allows better decisions. Better decisions compound into influence over time. There's growing evidence in psychology and neuroscience that mindfulness and self-awareness improve executive function, especially under stress. Leaders who can observe their internal state without being overwhelmed by it perform better in complex, uncertain environments. This is not abstract philosophy, it's operational advantage. Your depth doesn't make you fragile, it makes you difficult to destabilize. And power values stability above almost everything else. When chaos increases, those who remain grounded become reference points. That's how inner work translates into external leverage. Periods of isolation often feel like rejection, but they serve a different purpose. Isolation strips away noise. It forces confrontation with one's own thoughts, limits, and patterns. This process is uncomfortable, but it sharpens perception. You begin to notice subtleties others miss because they're constantly distracted. Historically, many high-level thinkers, strategists, and leaders experienced extended periods of solitude before their influence expanded. Isolation refines internal dialogue. It teaches patience, self-reliance, and emotional endurance. These are not traits developed in constant social validation. When power encounters someone who has survived isolation without bitterness or collapse, it recognizes resilience. You didn't just endure being alone, you learned from it. That education doesn't show on a resume, but it shows in how you respond to pressure. Attention can elevate or expose. It depends on how it's handled. The mistake most people make is over-delivery. They reveal too much, too fast, in an attempt to justify the attention. This often backfires creating dependency or diminishing perceived value. Leverage comes from pacing. Offer value incrementally. Let consistency speak louder than intensity. In influence theory, controlled contribution increases demand while preserving authority. You don't need to impress. You need to be reliable and selective. Power responds well to those who don't rush toward it. When you stay measured, you signal that your value isn't dependent on approval. That subtle message shifts dynamics from evaluation to respect. At some point, hesitation becomes limitation. Stepping fully into what's already visible to others doesn't mean changing who you are. It means acting with intention instead of instinct. You stop shrinking, not by becoming louder, but by becoming clearer. This step often feels heavy because it carries consequence. Decisions matter more. Your presence affects outcomes. But this is also where purpose sharpens. When you align internal discipline with external action, momentum builds naturally. The final truth is simple. Power didn't notice you by accident. It recognized capacity. Whether that capacity remains latent or becomes active depends on what you choose next. And now that choice is conscious. Before anything visible changes in your life, something internal tightens. Your awareness sharpens. You become more selective with your energy, even if you can't explain why. This is not imagination. It's a cognitive shift that often happens when stakes increase. Your nervous system senses that your actions now carry more weight. Psychologically, this phase reflects heightened self-monitoring. Research shows that when individuals enter environments of greater consequence, the brain naturally reallocates attention toward risk assessment and long-term outcomes. You begin thinking twice, not out of fear, but out of instinctive calibration. This stage can feel uncomfortable because it arrives without context. There's no clear explanation, no formal acknowledgement, but it's an early indicator of transition. You're adjusting internally before the external world catches up. In serious systems, opportunities are rarely obvious. They arrive wrapped in uncertainty, responsibility, or inconvenience. This is intentional. Power does not reward eagerness. It evaluates judgment. How you interpret ambiguous situations reveals more than how you perform in ideal ones. From an organizational psychology perspective, this method filters for intrinsic motivation. When there is no immediate reward, only those who operate from internal standards step forward. Others hesitate, complain, or wait for clearer incentives. If something feels like an opportunity but offers no applause or reassurance, pay attention. That ambiguity is part of the test. What matters is not whether you succeed instantly, but how you engage with responsibility when no one is guiding you. As your internal standards shift, alignment changes. Conversations that once felt easy may feel shallow. Relationships based on convenience or shared distraction begin to dissolve naturally. This isn't hostility, it's incompatibility becoming visible. Social psychology explains this through value convergence. As individuals grow, they unconsciously seek environments that reflect their internal state. When growth accelerates, mismatches become uncomfortable for both sides. This separation can feel lonely, but it's functional. Reduced noise creates space for more precise connections. Power environments favor clarity over crowd size. As responsibilities grow, time feels denser. Days carry more consequence. Fewer interactions feel casual. This compression effect is common in high-stakes roles where efficiency replaces excess. Cognitive load theory explains this shift. When tasks matter more, the brain filters aggressively. Distractions lose appeal. Focus sharpens, sometimes without conscious effort. This phase often feels demanding, but it's also energizing. Meaning increases when attention is no longer scattered. What once felt overwhelming begins to feel intentional. Distance is a protective mechanism. Before granting access, power increases space. Less feedback, fewer signals, more autonomy. This distance reveals how you operate without reinforcement. In leadership development models, this is known as unguided responsibility. Those who panic in silence struggle later. Those who adapt demonstrate readiness. Distance is not dismissal. It's filtration. How you respond to it matters more than how you feel about it. Instruction creates dependence. Observation reveals independence. When guidance decreases, it's often a sign of confidence in your capacity to self-direct. Educational psychology supports this. Autonomous problem-solving leads to deeper competence than constant instruction. Being observed, rather than directed, means your judgment is under evaluation. This can feel unsettling, but it's progress. Silence here means expectation, not neglect. At some point, habits that once served you become inefficient. Your old identity, how you saw yourself, no longer fits new demands. This friction signals growth. Identity theory shows that transitions require internal restructuring. Clinging to outdated self-concepts creates resistance and stress. Letting them evolve restores alignment. Discomfort here is not failure, it's recalibration. Growth always breaks something first. As influence increases, consequences accelerate. Small decisions create visible outcomes more quickly. This feedback loop tightens learning, but also accountability. Systems theory explains this as increased leverage. When your position affects more variables, outcomes scale faster. Precision becomes essential. This is where discipline matters. Thoughtless actions now carry amplified impact. At higher levels, recognition becomes quieter. Fewer compliments, less validation, more trust. Silence replaces celebration. This aligns with intrinsic motivation research. External rewards decrease as internal standards rise. Responsibility becomes its own confirmation. If applause fades, but reliance grows, you're advancing, even if no one says it. Skill opens doors. Emotional regulation keeps them open. In volatile environments, composure outweighs competence. Neuroscience shows that emotional volatility impairs decision-making under stress. Regulation preserves clarity. Those who remain steady become anchors. Anchors are rare and necessary. Eventually, initiative replaces instruction. Waiting becomes a liability. Action becomes expected. Leadership research identifies this as role internalization. You stop asking what to do and start deciding what needs to be done. This is not rebellion, it's ownership. Influence becomes indirect. Your input shapes direction even when you're not visible. Systems adjust around your presence. This reflects distributed leadership, impact without spotlight. It's one of the strongest forms of influence. When things improve quietly, that's often your signal. At this stage, observation ends. Expectation begins. You are no longer being tested, you are relied upon. Reliance is the highest form of trust in any serious system. It's earned through consistency, restraint, and judgment. This is not the end. It's the beginning of responsibility that doesn't announce itself, but matters deeply. You attract people because you are internally organized. Humans are unconsciously drawn to coherence, the alignment between thoughts, emotions, and behavior. When someone doesn't leak anxiety, desperation, or over-explanation, others feel safer around them, even if they can't articulate why. Your presence lowers psychological noise, and that relief is attractive in a world filled with mental clutter. Another reason is that you don't compete for attention. People who are constantly trying to be seen create tension. People who are comfortable being unseen create gravity. Social psychology shows that individuals who don't chase approval are perceived as higher status, not because they dominate, but because they signal independence from external validation. That independence reads as strength. Finally, you attract people because you listen without trying to control outcomes. When someone feels genuinely heard, without being judged, rushed, or corrected, the nervous system relaxes. This is rare. Most people listen to respond, not to understand. Your ability to stay present without agenda makes others feel valued, and that emotional experience stays with them long after the interaction ends. First, protect your internal state before trying to influence anything external. This means regular moments of stillness, reflection, prayer, journaling, or silent walks where you realign with your values. Holiness here doesn't mean perfection. It means integrity. When your actions match your inner standards, you radiate stability without effort. Second, practice restraint with intention. Speak when your words add clarity, not volume. Delay reactions when emotions are high. Choose responses over impulses. These small acts of discipline create a quiet authority that doesn't rely on dominance or manipulation. Ethical power is built on self-control, not control over others. Third, use your influence to stabilize, not to impress. Ask yourself in every interaction, does this reduce confusion or increase it? Does it calm or agitate? When your default impact is calming, people trust you. When your default intention is service rather than validation, your influence remains clean and sustainable. You don't attract people because you try. You attract them because you are centered. In a world driven by noise, speed, and insecurity, calm clarity stands out naturally. Your presence offers something rare: steadiness without force, depth without heaviness, strength without aggression. The responsibility that comes with this is not to exploit attention, but to honor it. Influence is not about being followed, it's about being relied upon without being asked. When you lead from inner alignment, your impact remains ethical, grounding, and enduring. Stay disciplined. Stay aware. Let your presence do the work. Thank you for staying with me through this video. It truly means a lot. I hope you're taking away something useful that you can apply in your own journey. If you enjoyed learning here, don't forget to subscribe and share your thoughts or questions in the comments. This is just the beginning, and there's so much more to discover in the upcoming videos. I can't wait to have you back, learning, exploring, and growing alongside me.